Hey guys, Jeff and I are out here in Hoskins, Papua New Guinea this morning, and on our way back to Kodiak today, I thought it'd be really cool to take you by some crashed World War II airplanes. I've actually never seen them. Someone else told me about them, and they're right on the way, so that's what we're hoping for. But we're gonna get fueled up before we get on our, actually we're going back to Madang, hour and 45 minutes. But we're actually taking back a bunch of our seats from one of our other airplanes. It came out here last week and went down to Australia for cargo and left all of its seats here on its way down there. So that's what we've got today is we've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 seats from another airplane that we're taking back, as well as a bunch of life vests from the passengers that came out last time. Alright guys, so this is our raft. We're going to be flying over open water for about an hour and 45 minutes on the way down to Madang, so that's why you have to have that, and we also have to have our life vest with us as well. A little uncomfortable, a little warm, but it'll be nice to have if we ever have to hit the drink. Well, 25-minute turnaround, we're ready to head out. Let's go ahead and get out of here.
The 8861 November Tango Kilo taxi.
And this airplane feels small with all this extra stuff.
November Tango Kilo, November Tango Kilo taxi, Madang 2 POV.
Take it now.
127.1, this is the Roger Lima. 39 miles to the northeast of Hoskins. Leaving 14,000 descent, estimating Hoskins second time 42. Stations Hoskins 127.1.
All stations Hoskins, Kodiak November Tango Kilo is taxiing for runway 30. We'll be departing for Madang. All stations Hoskins.
X-ray Lima.
Alright, Papa X-ray Lima 127.1 November Tango Kilo, local QNH 1007, and winds 3 knots from the west-northwest.
Coming over with tanks, Papa X-ray Lima.
All stations Hoskins, Kodiak November Tango Zulu, or correction, November Tango Kilo is taking off runway 30, departing to the north on climb 18,000. All stations Hoskins. Alright, gauges are green, airspeed's alive. Continue.
Alright, let me go ahead and put that other place in there. WWII. Oh, right before we jumped in, we both were looking on the satellite to see if we could find these, because I've seen them before. Someone sent it to me, and we couldn't find it, although I know where it is. And I'll leave a link down below to the pacificrex.com, where it's talking about them and has a little bit of backstory on what exactly happened. There's a B-25 and then some other plane I'm not really familiar with. So if we can't find them, I'll still, I post a lot of these flights on my Patreon page for those of you flight simmers that would like to try this out, and I'll leave all the exact details if I can try to find it for you guys, so you guys can fly out here on your own and re-simulate this flight, see if you guys can find them for yourself.
Station Hoskins and November Tango Kilo, the Papa X-ray Lima 15 miles to the northeast, descending to 6,100. And estimating field type 43, we're trying to, we're trying for a left, second right base 30.
All stations, Hoskins, November Tango Kilo is 3 miles to the northwest, 1,000 on climb.
Right, so one of them is a U.S. Navy plane, a PV-1 Ventura, and apparently it was on a mission and it was hit on the starboard engine by an anti-aircraft fire, and then, let's see, had a hard landing here. The crew survived, and afterward they just stripped off any usable parts and things like that. So, faded the crew, they were all flown back to a different airfield, but they all lived.
Mars, the 8861 November Tango Kilo departure. November Tango Kilo destination Madang. We'll be tracking 267 for Letka, estimate Letka 20, next hour.
Tango Kilo.
Right, so the second airplane is a B-25. It was out on a mission with 3 other B-25s, and something happened where I think he had to make an emergency landing, and they decided to land here. They landed fast, and it sounded like they blew the front tire out or the nose gear collapsed. He had a bad landing, and the front nose gear just collapsed, and they slid off the runway, but everybody lived. So that's the 2 stories. Like I said, I don't know where this is. I haven't ever actually looked for these, but I have seen them on the satellite picture, and they were in like perfect view, but they're not in perfect view today. So yeah, we'll see. All right, well, let's get this up on the big map so I can see. This is actually an old, as I know, an Australian airstrip from World War II.
Okay. If you want to take flight controls and kind of look around, that's your choice.
All right, I'll take the flight controls.
All right, you got flight controls. It's on autopilot.
All right, I have flight controls. Let's assume that if this is the runway and it slid off or something like that, that it's going to be kind of in the line of it or something. So I'm going to let you just look out as I go just a little bit to the right side of the runway. And probably keep it 1,000 because it'll probably be easier to find it if we're a little bit higher.
Sure.
We'll go down this side and then the other side, and then we'll call it a day if we don't see it. Just, I guess, look along the edge of the runway too. Looked like I saw something maybe silver halfway over there.
There is, yeah, there's a little hut there. They're burning something there. I think they planted all this.
Remember, it was in trees, I remember, so. All right, I'm gonna go turn around and then I'll go
and get a look at it on your
fly
side.
down and get a look. All right, we'll fly down the middle of it. You can look on that side, I'll look on this side. That way we're kind of like, because I don't think it was on the runway. It was like, I remember it being
right on the edge.
In the trees. I'm not seeing it. Remember someone had said, oh yeah, they cleared out an area right around it. Oh, all right, well, let me flip around and we'll go one more pass and then we'll be out of here because I don't need to just be sitting here doing nothing.
I know, there's nothing real obvious as far as...
No, there is not. It looks a lot different from the satellite picture on Google, that's for sure. There's actually like a whole plantation here now. And the one I looked at, maybe it was on Bing, I don't know, but there was plantation around. I don't see anything out here, so. All right, well, you have flight controls.
All right, I've got flight controls.
Might as well head on up to 18,000 and be on our way. Well, guys, sorry for you viewers. I was hoping we'd be able to see it today, but like I said, maybe I'll see if I can find it on Google Earth or on Bing Maps or something, because I know that I've seen it before, and then you can see what it looks like, or at least see the pictures of the articles that I was going through. It actually has some pictures if you are interested, or a World War II nut. So we're climbing up to 18,000 feet onto Madang. So there's really not a lot going on here. We'll pick back up when we get closer to our top of our climb, and then as we get into Madang, it's going to be a gorgeous day there, but I think we're just going to shoot the practice approach going in there as well. We've been at 18,000 feet for, I don't know, probably 45 minutes or so. We're just 1.5 minutes out from top of descent. to head on down. We're going to shoot the approach, like I said. As you can see ahead of us, it's absolutely perfect, so really there's no need to whatsoever, except that it's good practice. So that's what we're going to do. 40 has our runway 25 approach in here. It's an LNAV plus VNAV, which basically is very similar to like an ILS approach in the sense that it gives you your vertical guidance all the way down, and the autopilot will actually, in this airplane,
vertical track,
think with the approach and actually fly it down to your decision altitude. Got myself on mute, so I'm not being a bother to Jeff when he's getting things ready, but let's go over the approach together real quick. It's the runway 25, just comes up over the ocean just because that's the most convenient for us today. And we're going to be going to our initial approach fix at November Charlie. So I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but here they basically just take the two last letters, and that's what they call it. So this is November Charlie, November India, Foxtrot, and Mike. And basically you'll have A, B, and C. Those are your initial approach fixes. And then your November India, or your India would be your intermediate fix, and then your November Foxtrot, which is your final, November Mike, which is your missed, and then your hotels, wherever it is, it's on here somewhere, which is your missed approach. Oh no, this one just has you coming right back here to November Delta. We're going to be switching over to tower once we get within 25 nautical miles of the airport. And if you come down here at the bottom, we've got 510 feet for LNAV plus VNAV. That's what we're going to do. It's a decision altitude. That's what DA is standing for. But if you just shoot it like an LNAV, or like a localizer basically, you can actually go a little bit lower because it's a minimum descent altitude. So you can actually drop down and then just come in flat. Maybe somebody smarter than me can maybe fill everybody in on the comments like this, but my thinking is because it's a decision altitude, you basically would go to that altitude, make your decision, and you'll actually dip down just a little bit below that. I think that's why it's set up 60 feet higher, not really sure. And it says if you have the actual QNH, you can go basically 100 feet lower on just the LNAV as opposed to that. So we should be able to get that today from tower. Their ATIS isn't working though. We won't be able to get temperature, so we won't be able to adjust our minimums via the temperature, because we could probably get a couple extra feet that way as well. Jeff has already set everything up on here. He's already put in our vertical speed. We put it down at 800, but then it typically goes all the way up to around 1,000. What I actually kind of need, just, I don't know, it's just the way the autopilot works. So it shows here we've got our vertical speed required to get to our point basically by 2,700 feet. He's got 2,700 feet set in here. That's what the magenta is, and that's what those boxes are. So if he was flying directly in those boxes, it would take us down there just perfect. But we're a little bit low. That's all right though. More than likely, I'll put myself on mute while you're doing it, and won't say anything, and you do your thing, and then I'll just be explaining what you're doing, but I'll have you on mute just so that I'm not a distraction to you. But at the same time, that way, if for some reason you were to mess up, then you'll mess up and you'll have to figure it out on your own.
Okay. Fair enough.
Mike Lima Coulson, best strike as it exits, runway 07.
I'm saying that you will. Say it. Just so I'm not having to prompt anything.
Okay.
If you're a flight simmer and you'd like to try this thing out, I actually have a course on how to fly the Kodiak if you'd like to learn a little more about the Kodiak specifically and a lot of the G1000 stuff. But if you're shooting an approach on here and you will try this one specifically, and if for some reason it's not basically flying the approach on autopilot where it actually connects in with the boxes and flies down the glide slope and everything. See how this one's like underlined and it's white? That's how these ones all start, but you actually have to go through and hit enter on each one of them to turn them cyan. Be able to give you the vertical guidance going all the way down there. If you don't, especially on runway 07, I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I know on 07 that's the case. It won't even actually give you the boxes and won't actually go down, it'll just drop them down different levels. So if you want them to actually go down, that's how you're going to do that. And like I said, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the Kodiak specifically, you can check out the link down below. This course covers everything from like takeoff, landing, cruise, setting everything up, using the G1000, a little bit of instrument work, things like that. So whether you're a newbie that's never flown an airplane but want to get into a flight sim, this would be a great course. Or even if you just want to learn a little bit more about the Kodiak specifically, I think this would be a great course too. Yeah, it's still not working, is it? Nope.
Yeah, that's not. I got it tuned in, but I'm not seeing any transmission on it, so.
Nope.
Kodiak Tower, November Tango Kilo.
November Tango Kilo, Kodiak Tower, good afternoon, go ahead.
Good afternoon, November Tango Kilo is 25 miles to the east, passing 5,100. Request the RNAV GPS 25 via November Charlie for practice approach, and negative ATIS.
November Tango Charlie, DG runway is 07, confirm you'll be braking left at the minimum.
Ask if it's busy. If it's not busy, can we just land around at 25, or we can brake left?
November Tango Kilo, if it's not busy, can we land on 25?
The wind is 060 degrees at 5 knots, maximum 10 knots.
We can accept 25, November Tango Kilo.
November Tango Kilo, roger. Track for initial RNF runway 25. Stand by.
Or 3 miles.
November Tango Kilo, track for November Charlie and report November Charlie.
Track November Tower, Charlie, and report November Tango Kilo.
You guys can see he just brought his torque on down to around 450. That's a good starting point to set yourself up. Usually around 3 miles or about 2 minutes before you, actually it's more like 1 minute. 1 minute before you actually get to where you want to. I start pulling my power back, prop forward, and then I go 10 degrees of flaps once we're below 138 knots. This is what he's doing now. He just flipped off the autopilot just for a second, and then I'll flip it back on. And so when you're in a descent, 450 torque works pretty well, and when you are just in level flight with this configuration, usually around 800, 850 works as a good starting point. We're shooting for around 110 knots, not around, we're shooting for 110 knots on the approach. Now that we're starting to level off at 2,700 feet, he's just adding his power back in, probably up to around 850. It's usually right around 400 higher than what you needed in the descent.
Kodiak Tower, November Tango Kilo is overhead, November Charlie.
Maintainer 110, which he's doing a great job.
November Tango Kilo, roger. Call again, November India.
Report November India, November Tango Kilo.
If I keep it here on the timer reference, it's actually going to show me my baro minimums right here. It also has them as well as right there. And now that we've just got on the approach, we're in between November India, or I'm sorry, Charlie and India, so we haven't quite got up to our intermediate fix yet. As we'd like to pick up one of these boxes up here, these checklist boxes. So for takeoff and landing, great if you have your own airplane, if you're a pilot, or even if you're a flight sim and you want to throw it in your sim. It's a really handy tool to be able to rise up and out where they need to be, rather than on a paper checklist where you can lose places. I have it for turbine, as well as some simple piston, as well as some complex piston airplanes. So 152s all the way up to like multi-engine pistons and stuff.
Kodiak Tower, November Tango Kilo, overhead, November India.
November Tango Kilo, roger. Call again, November Foxtrot.
Report November Foxtrot, November Tango Kilo.
Right, so he hit the approach mode, but he also turned it down to 1,700 feet, which immediately dropped his boxes down. Whereas if he would have kept them at his 2,700, then it would have actually flown the approach in. But I think he hit that in the wrong sequence, and that's why he's now having to basically revert to doing his step downs rather than actually flying the approach in like he'd like it to be. Did you notice it didn't give you any glide slope?
No, it didn't yet.
You know why?
You don't.
It's because you flipped this from 2,700 to 1,700 rather than leaving it at the 27.
Okay.
And then it would have automatically given you those boxes down. But what you did is you just...
I forced it
You
then.
forced it to go down, and now you're having to do your step downs.
Okay.
And it won't give it to you until... well, really, all the way in through, I don't know you'll be able to, so...
I was trying to stay ahead of the game, and it's not helping me.
We've got 9 more seconds to our next point. This is something I do on approaches, is I'm always going off my time rather than my distance, because it's a lot easier for your brain to think. I've got 10 seconds to go.
November Tango Kilo, overhead, November Foxtrot.
Okay, now it's showing you your boxes.
November Tango Kilo, roger, continue approach.
Continue approach, November Tango Kilo.
Alright, so now that he's passed his final approach fix, it's showing the box. You can also see we've got this yellow thing here. This is an RP approach. So even technically this, because we're in the yellow boxes, we've gone 75 feet basically above and beyond, like above or below your desired point. So really, if you get into those yellow boxes, you're supposed to go missed already, because it's supposed to be like the super accurate, well, it's not, it is a super accurate approach. And now that he's getting in here, you can see now that we're in between that 75-foot margin, basically. It's a pretty small margin if you're having to hand fly, which he is right this minute. It's a lot harder to do to be able to keep in there. On a nice day like today, not so much. You throw some rain clouds and turbulence and rain on your windshield and a lot of distractions. It's definitely a lot harder.
Combat Tango Kilo, runway 25. Goes in best strike exit exit. Clear to land.
Dodger Bird Strike, clear to land, 25 November Tango Kilo.
Right, so he's going down to his baro of 510, which is shown right here. At that point, that's your decision altitude on this type of approach. You basically make the decision, yep, we're going missed, or nope, we can see ahead of us. Well, he's going to go all the way down and then take his goggles off at that point. Then realize he has to make some quick adjustments to be able to land, because we're not set up really in a configuration to land yet.
Minimums.
Here we go.
500.
It's pretty close though.
Yeah, full flaps.
Oh, it's easy in a little airplane like this when we're going around 100 knots. Not that big of a deal. But I guess if you're coming in here in a Fokker 100 or something like that, I don't know what their approaches are, maybe 140 or something, I'm guessing. I think it'd be a little bit quicker of things that you have to get going when you're only 500 feet off the ground. Alright, good job. You gotta learn something from it, huh? Next time, just keep it at the 27, and it will, for one, it will actually fly it for you. It will connect to the glide slope and fly it, so for one, it just really
eases it up, yeah.
Eases it up for you, but I've made the same mistake myself.
And it's not bad for me to practice.
Oh, and that's why we do these.
Yep, yep.
It's great on days like this, but then when we get in the real scenario,
Have that extra, brain power.
I'd rather you be screwing up on perfect days like this when you're wearing your goggles than on some really crummy day out here. So, but good job. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Really sorry I wasn't able to show you guys the airplanes. I was actually looking forward to seeing them too. I might do a little more research and try to find them, but like I said, I'll see if I can get some information. I know that PacificRex.com has information on the wrecks, but they don't actually have the location of the wreck. But someone has sent it to me before. So anyway, thank you so much for taking the time. And like I was saying earlier, if you're interested in learning to fly the Kodiak on Flight Sim, check out the link down below. I think you guys will really enjoy it. And every once in a while I do run some really great sales on them as well on that course. So welcome here to Madang, and yeah, we'll see you guys later this week in another video with Jeff and I, heading out to, I believe, Malamunda next.